often get asked why I like precious metals and making sure I have some of those, such as gold and silver. Why do I invest in those? Now, this is just my opinion, but I do believe there's things to think about when it comes to the reasons of buying precious metals. We often hear, well, you know, you gotta have food and water, you can't eat gold. We understand that. And biblically, we know gold and silver won't be forever because it says we will throw it in the streets. We understand that too. Why do I think gold and silver is still a good investment? And then we're gonna talk about how I purchase gold and silver and how you probably should too. Just an opinion, but just a thought process to hopefully help us to gain more wisdom when it comes to things to buy to hold our money safe. Let's jump into it today. This video is going to get going and it starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so much for being here on this beautiful South Mississippi morning. It will be hot and humid today, and I wish we'd get some rain, but it is a beautiful, beautiful day. Why do we say it's wise to buy gold and silver? Why do we personally buy it? Let's talk about the benefits of it. Let's also talk about how we choose to do it. And I think this video, if you don't like gold and silver, that's okay. It just at least will allow you to say, you know what? This may be something to at least think about over time. Let's jump into that. But before we do, remember to subscribe to this channel if you like this content. We also have a secondary channel, The Max Life. Check that out. It has some awesome how-tos. A little bit more about our farm. Also, we cook a lot, so you'll see a lot of that. You'll see my kids, my wife, a whole lot more. So check that channel out. Also, remember, we give away something each and every month. We're gonna be doing a giveaway next week, so make sure you are subscribed to both channels. Put in the comments that you are subscribed to both channels, and that way we know you'll be entered into the giveaway. It doesn't cost you anything, and we'll be giving away something really awesome next week. First reason that we purchase gold and silver and precious metals is because we do know that the dollar is struggling. Now, here's two reasons the dollar is struggling. Well, we're printing and borrowing more than we can ever imagine repaying, so we know default is inevitable. In history, we've never seen a currency, a dollar or any kind of currency that has been printed ever last test of time, usually 100 years, somewhere around there, give or take. Therefore, what has been around way longer than that? Well, it comes to gold and silver when it comes to currency. Now, we're not talking food, we're not talking anything like that. I'm talking financial currency right now. Well, gold and silver stood the test of time compared to the dollar. So first and foremost would be, we see the debt crisis. We see the fact that we will default one day. We also saw the Fitch credit rating situation from last week. We're gonna fight the debt battles and debt ceilings again because we're too scared to quit spending money on stuff that we shouldn't be spending money on in America. There's a debt problem that's happening and a repayment problem that's happening. So therefore, we have to find a way that, just in case the dollar struggles, what is something that we can hold that has value worldwide? And that comes up to the second point. If gold and silver is not good and it's not worth anything, why is every country buying gold and silver? China is stockpiling gold right now. They're buying tons upon tons upon tons. All the other BRICS nations are doing the exact same thing. Even Poland, which is part of NATO, they're doing the same thing. We're seeing more and more countries stockpiling gold. Why? Because they all realize that every currency is debt-based and every currency is struggling. If all of a sudden the market falls out, if all of a sudden we see a major devaluation of any currency, or we see the new movement towards these digital currencies, which I'm completely against, what holds the test of time? Again, we go back to gold and silver. So if we don't stockpile it for a reason, then we should ask ourselves, why is other countries and other people doing that? You know, our Fed is stockpiling gold. Why is our Fed stockpiling gold if they believe that they can keep on printing the dollar and it's always going to be there? If they believe that they're going to start this CBDC and it's always going to be there, why would they be stockpiling gold? Because they know it's a world currency. I don't believe in a global market. I don't believe in this global push, but I do believe that if you have gold and silver, it speaks volumes of money across the world. So that's the second reason. No matter what happens to our personal dollar, no matter what happens to American spending, if we can have money that is worth something across the world, then we hold value. Third, it cannot be destroyed. So if we do have dollars, or we do have transactions in the digital world where money is just kind of floating around, gold and silver can't be destroyed. Yes, it can be lost, don't get me wrong, but it is an asset that cannot go away. It is a source of wealth that does not go away. If all of a sudden you lose it or it's gone, the value of the rest of it goes up because it cannot be replicated. Can't make it anymore. You have to get it out of the ground. So it is a natural resource that allows us to know that pure silver, pure gold, or any of the precious metals are worth way more than what we print on a piece of paper. If we can't keep printing the dollars would be worth more. But the more we print, the more inflation happens, the more problems we have, and that's a crisis. So if we have gold and silver and everything's backed by gold and silver, or we go back to some kind of gold standard one day, hopefully, with some kind of currency, we're gonna see the fact that it cannot be destroyed, it cannot be added to. And if it's taken away, then it adds value back to the gold and silver that's still on the market. Especially when you go back in time and civilizations, gold and silver has always been there. So now we've talked about the reasons we purchase it. It also helps us make sure we hold the value. So when the dollar goes down, the gold stays or goes up. Now, a lot of people will say, the naysayers of gold will say, well, it doesn't go up in value. If you have 2,000 now, 10 years from now, it should be at 3,000 or 4,000. That's what we would do in the stock market. Yeah, but that's in a perfect world. That means the stock market had to grow, and that means we had to have a debt society where people went into debt, people bought consumer goods, and everything was working really well. We wanted that inflation, we wanted that interest to grow, we wanted the markets to be successful. That's great, we want that. But there's times that won't happen. The one thing that I like about gold is, yes, it doesn't gain a lot of extra traction. I'm not one of those people who's like, it's gonna go to 10,000. I'm not telling you that. If it just holds value, that's worth something. Think about this last year. If you had dollars in your safe or dollars in the bank, it didn't go up in value. It lost a ton of value. The spending habit of the dollar. So when you wanted to go buy a loaf of bread or wanted to go buy groceries or wanted to go buy something in town, the value of your dollar, you needed more of them to buy it because of inflation. So it's more manipulated. Gold and silver and things like that are not as manipulated. Now, there is speculation. Yes, I think they try to hold the value of it down, definitely, because they don't want to see gold and silver go up, because they want to see dollars and all the control of printable money stay the same. But eventually, that won't work. It's a broken system. If we have a broken PVC pipe and we're trying to put more glue around it, it's better just to fix the pipe instead of keep duct taping it or putting more glue on it. Eventually it's gonna crack and it's gonna break and it's gonna bust. With gold and silver, you hold the value. You haven't lost value. If it fluctuates $100, $200, or a few cents, it still holds the same value on average compared to something like the dollar, compared to the stock market. Think about your investments. My investments have, man, it's been like a roller coaster. There's months I look at it and I'm like, wow, I've made a lot of money in the stock market. Then there's months it's like, I've made nothing, I've lost 10%. How did that happen? The speculation of the true dollar or the stock market, there are some great wins, but there's some great losses. With gold and silver, you kind of hedge against all that. Now, let's talk about the reasons of buying this versus something like Bitcoin, and then let's talk about how we personally buy it. Again, this is all my opinion, so please don't take this by any advice other than this is just what I personally do. I look at gold as it holds value and it holds wealth. I look at silver as this will be the bartering agent, and this is how we will buy the loaf of bread. The reason we say that is because gold by ounce is $2,000, or roughly, give or take, from 1,800 to 2,200 roughly. So I can't go give an ounce of gold to buy a loaf of bread. That would be stupid. Silver, on the other hand, is $20, $25, $30 an ounce. It's a little bit more marketable toward the common everyday purchases. Now, will we ever see a gold and silver purchase of goods anymore? Maybe not in the society that we live in, but in a parallel society or in a situation where we have a preparedness crisis society, you might. People all the time say, well, why don't you look at Bitcoin and crypto? I have no problem if you own a little Bitcoin or crypto, but look at the speculation on it. You're buying a digital speculative numbers, zeros and ones and zeros. You're not really buying tangible money. So when we don't have tangible money, how do we know those goods are good and they're not just thought up in our head? It's so much speculation again. So you can make tons of money on crypto. I personally have some crypto, but it's more playful crypto than it is my whole wealth of crypto, or my whole asset bank in crypto, or putting my whole wealth in crypto. I think that's absolutely crazy. to do. I don't want that speculation. So that's when I go back to saying, if you can physically hold gold or silver, I think that you're actually in a better situation. Now the negative to that is that means you're carrying around gold and silver. Yeah, you need to look at like caches or cash or catch, however you want to say it. I know everybody dogs me out because the pronunciations, but basically burying it in little coffee cans around the yard. And I'm not saying do it in a coffee can, but what I mean is there are ways that you can put your money safely in different locations in caches, and those caches will allow you to spread your wealth out where it's not all in one place. You need some safes. Yes, you may have a trusted family and a confidant that you can keep some wealth there too. I'm not saying have everything you own in gold and silver. That would be probably stupid as well. Like I said, don't put all your eggs in one basket. But we do need some version of tangible gold and silver, I believe, and I personally do. And I personally have that because I believe one day when it comes down to it, I may not can get it from this gold vault or silver vault across the world or across America. I may not can get it out of the gold style bonds or the gold style stocks or something like that. I want to tangibly have it. So digital currency, it needs the grid. Digital currency needs it to be a good market. Digital currency can be very dangerous because even though we like what it looks like right now, it's the, digital currency is the futuristic gold. It sounds good and all, but bottom line is you're not in control of it. The grid is, and also who's on the other side of this computer system that's building crypto. It's just a little scary to me. So I do like crypto a little bit. It's a good parallel society, but I sure would not put it up to gold and silver personally. Now let's talk about how we buy it and the reasons that we buy it this way. A few ways. First of all, I want to make sure that I buy things sometimes that's just between me and the person. So I love buying gold and silver and precious metals locally, person to person. So I've built relationships locally with different pawn shops. I've built relationships locally with different agents of bartering, people who are used to living in a parallel society using cash to purchase. So therefore, if I have someone that knows me and says, hey, I came across some older silver, or I came across 1 ounce of gold, or I came across some Austrian gold, or I've come across some Canadian gold, I have a half ounce of Asian gold, I'm open to buying all of it. Now I can't afford it all, of course. I mean, we're not loaded with funds, so we just buy it when we can. But I promise you, I'm literally buying precious metals each and every month some way. If it's silver, if it's gold, if it's junk silver, what they call junk silver, old currency, or some form of a half ounce, 1/10 ounce, or an ounce. I think it's wise. And if you can buy it locally, then that just helps you cash to cash, parallel society. Now you've got this gold or silver that's basically unknown to most people, and it allows you to put it up without anyone really knowing that you have it. I think that's a very wise purchase. I do that a lot. So I'll go to pawn shops that I can trust. I've got friends who also look like I do that may say, hey, I've got connections, but I don't want to buy 5 ounces today. I can buy an ounce, and Colby can buy an ounce, or this guy can buy a half ounce. So we work together and build community around like-minded thinking. For instance, I got a call just yesterday. He said, hey, run down to my store. He owned a store in town. He said, there's this guy that's wanting to sell around 10 ounces of gold. Well, my gosh, that's a lot of money. I understand. Nobody can just buy physical 10 ounces worth of gold all the time. So I said, well, I can't buy 10 ounces. He said, that's right. I can buy 2. Are you into buying 1 or 2? And then there was 2 other gentlemen there, and they said, hey, we could put it all in and we'll chip in all together and we'll buy all this 10 ounces, but we'll split it. You see how that works? So we were able to work out a good deal to buy bulk, save money because the guy wanted to make 1 transaction. We were able to buy it together, and we were able to buy it locally. So that was really good. Now you may not can do that all the time. So what's some better options? Look online for reputable sources. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'll tell you who I personally buy from, who my favorite online source is. I've got a link to them below, but it's Genesis Gold Group. I love the fact that they have some conservative Christian values. I think that means a lot to me personally, and it kind of looks at it as this is a parallel society, and they understand the value of gold. So I buy a lot of gold and silver from Genesis Gold Group if I'm ordering. This is something I do pretty much monthly. I will buy some from them. Now, there's 2 options when you buy from online gold companies. First of all, make sure they have reputable 5-star service. Make sure they're a known gold provider. Don't just send your money lackadaisical to somebody that you've never heard of. Now, you can buy from Goldline, you can buy from Rosalind, you can buy from all these metal markets. Buy from anybody. Buy from whoever you can build a trust with and whoever you can get the best deal with. I personally think Genesis Gold has been my favorite. Genesis Gold Group, there's a link below. Talk to them, tell them I sent you. Sometimes you can work out some extra silver or some discounts there based on telling them that the Mac sent you and Colby sent you. But you don't have to buy from them. Buy from whoever you want to. Learn to order some from online sources. There's sometimes that some of these groups have discounts or they'll have promotionals. They'll say, okay, if you buy an ounce of gold, we'll match it with 2 or 3 ounces of silver because it's more economical, and they try to incentivize you buying precious metals from them. So you may not go to Genesis Gold. You may go to another provider that has a discount or has some kind of incentive program right now. That's a great option. I've done that before. Now, I typically go back to Genesis because I like them, and they tend to have a little bit better deal on the ounces of gold and silver than most, but there's times that I've bought from Goldline because they may have had an incentive at that time. Now, that's all physical, but if you're looking at saying, okay, I've got some money in stock markets and it's going and it's being volatile, have you thought about just taking some of your IRA or some of your money that's in the stock market and just putting it in gold? You can literally transfer it without any kind of tax implication, or you need to talk to your CPA or your broker. I know Genesis can help you with that. Any of these companies can do the same thing. But maybe think about putting 10% in there, 15%, 20%, 5%. You don't have to. Again, I'm not advising you. I'm just saying think through it. That way you know, okay, if I got 10% of my portfolio or 10% of my IRA or 10% of whatever I've got for quote unquote retirement or for savings later on, if I know it's in gold, I'm not making money, but at least I'm not losing a lot of money when it comes to the crazy volatility of the stock market. So that may be your thought. You may say, hey, I live in an apartment. I don't want to own physical gold. It scares me to death. Now, I would say own physical gold and silver. But if you said, okay, I don't want to do that, but I have, $10,000 or I have $5,000 or I have $20,000 in this old 401k, my old job I had, or I have a portion of 10% of this little 401k that I can put in to gold or silver. That's a great option. Just think about it. It's about hedging against the inflation and hedging against the loss of other things like the stock market or our personal dollars. Now, wrapping this up, can you eat gold and silver? No. Will gold and silver be the end-all be-all? No, I'm not telling you that. I honestly believe there's 3 things that's really more important than even gold and silver. It goes back to spiritually, you need to be grounded. You need to say, okay, I'm spiritually prepping, I'm spiritually prepared, and you need to have a relationship with Christ and God, and through all the situations that we go through, that is a true peace that you're going to get, first and foremost. Secondly, it comes down to food and water. You have to have sustainable food and water. So when we do these videos about money and cash and about things that you should be doing, this is kind of an extra. You need to make sure you have food and water first. You have to have food and water. So we'll be putting up food and water, and we have tons of videos in our prepping stockpiles and our food security playlist that you need to check out. So that would be next to spiritually prepping is food and water. Definitely, you have to eat. You can't eat gold and silver. We understand that. Something that's just as important as gold and silver, and probably a little bit more important, is the defense and protection of number 2, of the food and water, and of our family. We have to protect ourselves. So it goes back to brass and self-defense tools and things like that. So I'm making purchases based on those things. First of all, I'm trying to make sure I'm spiritually gaining wisdom and seeking Christ in all that I do. Then I'm also making sure that I'm growing tons of gardens and growing as much food as I can, and then buying deals and putting up food and stockpiling in my pantries and doing it the best way I know how. Bulk buying, things like that. We raise all our own meat on farm. We raise about 95% of our crops on farm. Like for instance, it's been dry, so we've not had good weather. But I have animals that are rotating. For instance, I've got water going right now on some pumpkins and peas. You hear the chickens. So we're always trying to grow food because we know that's of the utmost importance. But then I'm going to look at self-defense tools, and then I'm going to look at how my money is. I need to be budgeting. I need to have some cash still. I need to stockpile cash because cash will always be there in some form or fashion to barter with, to buy with, or to keep a transaction between you and the other individual for a time. If we start seeing more movements towards CBDC or more control of your money or loss in cash, then you start making purchases with that. But then I fall back on gold and silver. It holds value. Everything comes to CBDCs and digital currencies. I want to stay as much away from that as possible. And I want to have a lot of my assets in things like my farm, things like my animals, things like our food and water, things like self-defense, and then ultimately in things like gold and silver. I hope I never use my gold and silver. I hope I pass it down to my children because it's something they can have from me. So I'm building a legacy. I'm building value more than just these, tangible dollars that may not be any good in just a few days, weeks, months, years in the coming future. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. You don't have to make purchases of gold and silver, but this is why I make purchases of gold and silver. A lot of the reasons that we've talked about. Also, we've talked about some negativities. We've talked about how you make sure you don't put it all in one place. We've talked about buying it physically. We've talked about buying it, through your portfolios. We've talked about other things like digital currency and cash. Some of those things are great. Remember, diversification and spreading any of your money out, no matter what you have, is the best. Gold and silver is wonderful, but stick to food and water first, self-defense, and ultimately relying on spiritual preparedness, understanding, gaining wisdom, and seeking Christ. So that's it in a nutshell. That's what we do. This is just what we personally do here at the Max. If you choose to not do this, if you think this is a great video, great, let me know. If you think I'm crazy, that's okay, let me know too. But when you comment below, it helps us as a community build wisdom and understanding how we get through the crazy world that we live in. Also remember, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up. That thumbs up helps us stay in the algorithm, and it makes these videos go to more people to hopefully gain into our community to see the value of what we're doing day in and day out. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Happy homestead, y'all.